Hey there, let's talk about a legend in comics. Let's talk about Jimmy Palmiotti. So, not only has Jimmy worked for every major publisher, but I love the work that he does with his own ideas, his own worlds, his own creations. I mean, you might know him from The Punisher or from running Marvel Knights and actually kind of reinventing Marvel in the 90s. You might know him from Painkiller Jane, one of his most famous creations. You might know him from all the amazing work he's done with Harley Quinn or doing work with his wife, who's also a phenomenal talent, Amanda Connor. You might know him from all of the amazing Kickstarters that he's done. And actually, before we talk about anything else about Jimmy, he's one of the most generous, nicest, kind of unbelievably giving people in the comics industry. Of everyone that I've met, like, he's taken time with me that many people would not take the time to give advice, to share stories, to provide a point of view, not just on the creative side of things, but on the business side of things. Like, this is a guy that kind of gets the whole picture. And so, this is a little celebration of Jimmy, and I hope you'll join me for the ride. He actually has a Kickstarter right now celebrating 30 years of Painkiller Jane, and you should absolutely go check that out. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what he does with his own label, Paper Films. And one of the things that I love about Jimmy is that, like I said, he's always creating new material, telling stories that he wants to tell with other phenomenally talented creators. And so we're going to dive into one that you might have missed, but you shouldn't miss. So let me introduce you to the world of Queen Crab. So let's just jump right in here. This series is awesome. I'm gonna say up front that it's Jimmy's approach to this, and I think a lot of his work is kind of, if you could do it on HBO, you could do it in comics. So there's a little mature content, which I think is great. He's not pulling any punches. Look at this awesome piece by Amanda Connor here. So, let's meet Ginger, the heroine, or you could say the protagonist of the story. She's kind of a regular girl dealing with life, probably 20 something, kind of one day at a time. But as all good stories do, we're meeting her at a kind of inflection point in her life. She's meeting kind of her boyfriend, or her friend with benefits, you might say. She confides in him that, actually the guy she was meeting or had been sort of dating has gotten serious, and actually she's getting married. And he actually knows that. So, surprise, surprise. She has a bachelor party, they have their wedding, and things go, you find out some stuff about her and her new husband. It's maybe not as rosy as we thought it was. There's a funeral, which finally leads us to a little bit of a twisted office romance. So you kind of uncover layers of Ginger's life. You kind of uncover layers that you start to realize there's more going on here, and she's just reacting and kind of surviving through it. But we finally get to the honeymoon cruise, and this is where things take a real turn. So here we are, on the cruise. They're interacting, trying to find their way into the relationship, into kind of what is this going to be like. How has this momentous occasion changed her life, and kind of finding their way in. And then she's hanging out, looking at the stars. Maybe things are going to be looking up here. Maybe things are going to be going well, but maybe not. Bye. And so her new husband, spoiler alert, throws her off the boat, and she finds herself not only lost, not only unable to be saved by the boat, but basically she's going to drown here. She's going to die. But something interesting happens, something mysterious happens, which will shape not only Ginger's life, but of course the story from here. So she finds herself on Coney Island on the beach. She's got to sit down for a second, take it in, and realizes that people around her aren't reacting to her the way that she might expect them to. She doesn't know what's going on, but this is where we realize things have taken a serious turn, and this girl now has crab claws for hands. And just like you or I, she doesn't react particularly well to that. And I don't want to spoil the whole story for you, so I'm just going to kind of quickly roll through a handful of additional pages here. She's got to make some serious adjustments to deal with the fact that this is just an entirely new life. And of course, there's a confrontation with her new husband, and things kind of go a little crazy from here. But what I love about it, I'm not gonna give away more. You got to go read it for yourself. But what I love about it is this is such a good example of what Jimmy does so well. It's such a good example of the kind of, you could call it indie or just creator driven storytelling that I think comics is so wonderfully suited for. Where an idea like this, it might be hard to sell a movie about a girl that wakes up with crab claws for hands. But Jimmy's clearly saying something with this. There's a real point of view. It's not a story for the sake of making a comic. It's a story to bring you into the world and the life and the experience of a particular character for a particular reason, and is choosing a moment in time in her life where, yes, this kind of supernatural event happens, but it's this event, this series of events that brings her to a turning point that had to happen for her to grow and become the character that she's going to become over the course of the story. So there you have it. She's a queen. She's a crab. You got to track down this book. It's phenomenal. Check out paperfilms.com for this and all of Jimmy's Paper Films catalog. More on the work that he does, the creations that he is passionate about as he brings more and more things to life. I think he's a true voice for independent comics while celebrating the medium at kind of every level over an incredible career. And by all means, go check out his current Kickstarter for 30 years of Painkiller Jane from Paper Films by Jimmy Palmiotti, the 30th anniversary celebration. There's 15 days to go. Come to Kickstarter and check it out. And I will be back with a lot more to talk about real soon.